If you're a beginner, you surely are a little bit confused about the CSS position property and its values, but luckily after this video you'll feel more comfortable using it. So relative absolute fit. Okay, so this is the basic structure: the div grandparent, another div parent, and then 3 children, as you can see here. And this is the initial main CSS, as you can see. Okay, just to set up things to show you all the position properties. Okay, so first of all, let's start with static. Basically, static is the default positioning. Okay, so all of these elements have position static. There's not a lot to say about that. Okay, then there is position relative. Okay, position relative behaves like static, but you can also move the elements around. Okay, so let's actually get child1. Okay, so position relative. Okay, as you can see, nothing changes, but I can use top, bottom, right, and left to actually change the position. So if I write top 10 pixels and then left 20 pixels, okay, I can move the element, as you can see. So 10 pixels from the top and 20 pixels from the left. But as you can see, all the other children are still there because the element is not actually removed completely from the flow, content flow, okay? But for all the other elements, the child1 is still in this position, although it's floating around, okay? So this is really important. Then, if we talk about position absolute, and we're gonna use that on child2, things change drastically because if I use position absolute, as you can see, child3 went from here up to here. Why? Because an absolutely positioned element is completely removed from the content flow, which means that for all the other elements, child2 is not there anymore, okay? So as you can see, child3 went up because for it, the child2 is not there anymore. It's just floating above them, okay? So this is really important. I can also use top, bottom, left, and right on that as well, okay? And this gets a little bit tricky because as you can see, if you write top 0, it goes up here. So not inside the parent. Why? Because basically an absolutely positioned element uses as reference its nearest ancestor that has any position value other than static, which means that parent has position static and grandparent has position static, so they don't count. So it goes up and up and up until it reaches the body. So now it's using the body as reference. So top 0, it's up here, okay? But if I were to add a position relative here, okay, which is how you can actually use position relative as well, and I save that, as you can see, child2 is now inside the parent. So if I actually do something like right 0, you can see that now it's using the parent as the reference. If I remove that from the parent and add that to this position relative, okay, and then I were to actually remove right, so you can see that. As you can see, now it's using the other element, the grandparent. And you can also use top and right, etc., to stretch the child, okay, to cover the whole thing, to sort of make an overlay, okay? So first of all, you need to remove width and height, and then you can do something like bottom 0. And as you can see, the thing stretches from the top to the bottom. If I were to write like 30 pixels, it would stretch up to 30 pixels from the bottom, okay? And you can also use the same thing with right and left. Okay, so right and left 0. As you can see, it covers the whole thing, okay? And you can also use an opacity like that, let's say 75, something like that. And as you can see, you've got your overlay. So let's now talk about, let's go back to the beginning like that. Let's now talk about position fixed. And basically position fixed fixes the element at a certain point on the viewport, and it stays there even if you scroll up and down. So if I use child3, for example, and do something like position fixed, like that, and you scroll up and down, as you can see, it scrolls up and down. It stays at the same point in the viewport, okay? Even though all the other things are moving up and down, this removes the element from the content flow as well, okay? And it uses the viewport as reference. So if I were to do something like top 0 and left 10 pixels, I would have something like that, that stays there, okay? So this could be really, really useful. And now let's talk about position sticky, which is a little bit more confusing, okay? So bear with me. So I'm gonna add sticky to the child1, okay? So position sticky, okay? And sticky basically can be thought of as a mixture between relative and fixed. So you need to set a threshold with top, bottom, left, or right, okay? Usually top is used, but you can also use right and left, and I'm gonna show you that as well. And let's actually try to set top 0, okay? So top 0 represents the threshold, okay? And when the element goes beyond that value, it becomes fixed. Otherwise, it behaves like a relative positioned element, okay? So as you can see, now child1 has position sticky, but it's behaving like relative, so it stays there, okay? But as soon as the child1 touches the threshold value, okay, which is top 0, which is up here, okay, it becomes fixed. As you can see, it becomes fixed. And as soon as it goes back to the starting point, it becomes relative again, okay? You could also use like 30 pixels, and there would be something like that. As you can see, it starts earlier because the set point now is here around this point, okay? So it goes down, 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 it reaches 30 pixels from the top, and it becomes fixed, okay? An important thing is that the element will always stay inside the parent. So in this case, the green rectangle, okay? The parent. So as you can see, I scroll down, 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 and then it becomes relative again because it reached the bottom of the parent, okay? So it stays inside. As you can see, it goes up, down, 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 up, 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 etc. And if I add left 0 and I were to scroll right, it does the same thing, as you can see, which is really, really cool. You can do a lot of things with position sticky. And now on the screen, you should see another really interesting video about web development. Go and watch it. I'll see you there.